So now here I'm just going to add ganache. So these are the cake slices that I just cut out. So I'm just going to mix it up together. Okay, they are quite soft, and like when I cut it out from the layers itself, then there is also the layer of ganache. So if you don't have enough that was cut out from the layers, and if you have the slices that doesn't have ganache, then you could add some ganache into the cake. You can even crumble one whole cake and then make a mixture that will just make a ball when you press, okay, and then retain the shape like that. Okay, so that is the consistency that you need to look in. Like it just retains the shape, so we can just mold this into the shapes that we want to do. So I'm just going to put that aside and then bring in the structure. Now I have just part of the cake that's been kneaded with the ganache, right? So on top of this, obviously we'll be covering it with ganache, okay? So, but then you just can't have like too much dense even at this stage. So try and work keeping in mind that you are getting the shape, but smaller in size than your original. Like say if the width of the that particular place you're working should be 6 inches, then the cake layer that you're building should be 5 inches only. So give that much leverage, because additionally you will have ganache and fondant to go over it, and so that will have that extra build to get to the right size that you're looking at. So I'm mixing in more cake with the ganache, which is from the layers itself. So now if this tummy that I've added, I feel like it's not enough, so I don't want to add here on the chest, because that was the flatter part that we were looking at, right? Now I feel like maybe a little bit more on the tummy. So for which, after one layer, just cover with a very thin ganache and then do another layer. Also now you can see the cake is not crumbling, it's all just stiff and nice, because I'm working in AC, and then it's mud cake, and also it was baked and frozen, so it's quite stable. So I'm trying to get the tummy in tucked inside the belt. So my bigger part will be here, and then it just lowers down, because when the belt is there, so it will just lower down, it will press the tummy down. So keeping that in mind. Okay, so also anytime you are just shaping something, carving out, if you're standing too close to it, you wouldn't get if you're doing it right, or if you're just following the proportion and all that. Okay, so you need to step back or see it through a camera. Like, I think I'm just watching it through the monitor. I feel like there is excess here. Or then if this is right, then I need more here. To add more here, and just add another thin layer of ganache. So the cake pops will be built in layers, like how the marshmallow layer is also built. So I'm merging that at the back. I'll turn it around to show you how the back looks. I'm just going to turn it towards me while you take a look at the back. I'm just going to step a little backward, away from the cake, to check if I've got the shape of the tummy. Okay, so here I feel like I just need a little more. So working with gloves is like, you don't feel like it's mess, and then it also doesn't stick to your hands. The gloves also much, so it's like little less messy. Just your place is messy, but then you feel like, you could work a little better. Okay, so let me turn it around. Here there's more, here there is a little lesser. This part is less. You just have the light here. You show this a little darker. I just want to show it with light too. Just take a look. Okay. So you can see this part is a little more. Here there is that dent, right? Um, so adding in some ganache there, and so building it. Okay, so the extra bulk, the body will become a little bigger after the addition of ganache and fondant. Okay, so here you can see it is like a step, right? Here I just want to soften up. Then I could carve it out and ganache. So obviously this part where the board is seen, just a little bit to cover up, or ganache should come in there because it's not much, but cake is a little more safer to add and cover. Fondant could be too soft, like maybe that layer of fondant, or maybe you could poke in there and then the ganache is soft. Okay, so I think carving is done. A little bit on the neck part. Let me build on the top. Just one layer of ganache on the top. So it's the shoulders as well. So you don't want it too narrow also, right? So I'm just going to add in a little bit here and then slowly just taper it out to the neck. I'm also going to keep the shoulders a little bit broader. So for the hands, there are two ways of doing it. One is with the Rice Krispie treats, and that I've shown. So at times you feel like, maybe there are certain places where the Rice Krispie treats is a little unsafe. Like what if it just breaks out from the wire itself and comes out? There isn't as much of stability as it is there for the legs, right? So those times, there is another way that we could just build the bulk before we are just going to add in the hand. Obviously, you don't want to add a lot of fondant and that is too heavy. You want to keep the hands a little light as well, because say maybe if you want to keep like say a cake or something that like holding an object, then you don't want that to be too heavy. So it's always better to uh, keep the hands a little lighter. So I'm just going to build that using aluminum foil, and that I'm just going to show to you as I work. I'm taking in, so whatever cut out, the slices that just got over. So I'm taking in the bigger slices that I cut. Okay. So which is like this, right? And I'm adding, so this doesn't have a ganache, right? So I'm just adding the ganache and kneading it together. That is the front. I'm just looking for the shoulders. Okay, similarly on this side, So if you are building the cake layers, I mean, like this with a cake pop mixture, that's what I call it. It's always safer to add layer of ganache so they stick well and then they just don't fall off. Okay, so you've built the layers and given the shape. Now, first step was to carve and get to the shape, the first level of basic shape, after which we did add the cake pop mixture. Here it looks a little thinner, so fine, we could ganache and then match it, but just a little bit. So this much of leveled surface you should have before we are proceeding to ganache part. Okay. So let me just clean up a bit and then let me have the ganache ready and we could just move on to the ganaching part. Okay. Let me just check the shape one more time. The shape is good, but then here the cake layer is there. That doesn't matter. Now, as long as the shape is there, not the entire thing has to be covered with the cake pop mixture. Where you just need the bulk, you're building. Here, I think maybe I carved out more, so I've added the extra cake pop mixture. Here, the cake itself is there, giving what shape I would like to have. And so that is the front part. I've just given the, the leverage for the belt. And here is where that the fur thing will come, and that will be the excess coat coming out of the belt. Okay, and the tummy is in good shape. You can see then the sides, and here the side is quite flat comparative to the tummy in the front. Obviously there has to be a continuation of this bigger part of the tummy coming in, and here also you can see the back. You have this space for the belt in leverage, and then this is the continuation of the front, and we've built the shoulders as well. Okay, so let me clean up and then we'll just get back to ganaching the entire thing. Yeah, I think it's also 1:20. We'll take a half an hour break for lunch and then catch up by 2, and then we will start with the ganache part. Okay. Okay, yeah, back after the break. Okay, now I'm just going to start building the hands. Okay, so like I said, the lighter way to keep the hands lighter, just start with building with foil. So I'm just taking a bit of the foil. I'm going to start adding it here. But before that, I want something to hold the foil with the body. When the body is cake and ganache, then the foil could just keep moving a bit. So at the shoulder where the cake just comes to an end, right? That place, just add a little bit of modeling chocolate. So the recipe of the modeling chocolate, the making video itself will be shared. So you could follow that and then make your own. You don't have to buy the modeling chocolate. Okay, I'm just taking out a bit. So it will be a little tough, especially if this been placed in AC. Kneading it for a while will just soften it up. Once it is soft, then we could just add it here on the shoulder. Okay, so it's soft now. So the whole thing, this cake was in the freezer, like say for the past half an hour. So it's quite stable now. Okay, so this part is attached. Similarly on the other side as well. So it's soft and pliable now. Okay, and this I'm just going to add it on the other side. Okay, so I'm just pushing it here. So now the foil will just get attached into this, like get poked into that, and that way it will. I'm also pinching it here, not allowing any hole for the wire, the copper wire to move. Okay, so now I'm just going to start building. You just start with the foil. Before that, to get the shape, I'm just going to bend and then cut the excess. Okay, so now I would be needing it till here. So I'm just going to use the cutting plier. Okay, so similarly, bend for the elbow. Okay, so depending on how I want to shape at this time, I will just cut off, and I want to make it. I'm just going to have the hands here for the bell, right? So I'm just keeping it a little away from the body. So and this one will be bent to be placed on the hip. So obviously you need that place. You just don't want this wire itself to go there, because there will be fondant, right? So once it's shaped and bent, then the next part will be the foil. You crush it. You can make it tight or make it a little loose. But then the point is we just need enough to get the bulb. Now again, see where you need to add the bulk. You don't have to always add one entire sheet. We would soften up, I mean, the edges, right? We will be ganaching on top of that. If you don't want to, put in ganache here, you could use shortening and before putting the fondant on top of it. Like this place, we are just pretty much sure that it's not going to be eaten at all. But then if you want to just keep the entire thing in, like it's all a continuation, then you could continue it with ganache. So I'm just checking here. So in case for the head, if you don't want to add Rice Krispie treats, it doesn't matter. I just wanted to show that it is quite possible for the head to be in the Rice Krispie treats. So this entire thing, like, oh, that will be edible. And even if it is going to get a little hard, obviously the puffed rice mixed with jaggery, which is the that dish, the Indian dessert that we make, is anyway quite hard, that you have to bite into it and eat. So this will act like a similar thing. So just the hands, you could keep it on the foil. Just pressing for the wrist. Obviously this is the dress, so all this, what it looks like the arm, is not the final finished one. It is the full and shirt or the top coat that the Santa is wearing. So it just shouldn't have all the muscle definitions and all that. It should be a rounded coat. I'm just leaving the gaps for the hands. So they should all be loose. So we need to look at what just because we are making hands, we shouldn't be looking at the rest of the anatomy details, because what we are going to look at here is the final look of the hand that we are looking at. So I'm just adding in extra here. So the part where the coat, the ends, I just want it to be a little extended here. So I want the elbow starting there. Instead of elbows trying to start from here, right? I just want the elbow to be here. So the elbows here, but then the coat looks like it is just flowing. And here, this is what I was trying to say. This part is moving, right? There's where we just need the modeling chocolate to just hold that together with the cake. So that part is not open. Where the foil attaches to the cake, you want that part to be sealed with modeling chocolate. Okay, so the rest of the uneven surface will be filled with ganache. So just keeping this part a little open. So putting fondant around it. So this excess will look like. And then I also have the wire here pointing at the bottom. So my the hand, the palm part can be attached in here. And then this coat, there is, I can see, you can see my fingers going inside. No, that much gap is there, but that is fine. You don't have to make that inside also solid to be able to have this extended part for the hand. Now, one thing I'm just going to check is to check for the elbow. I just want to make sure the elbow is right. Okay, and here, like this side, the attachment, I'm just going to go over and add modeling chocolate, connecting the foil with the cake and pressing it down properly. So anyway, you have the aluminum foil that you're building up, and if it is in continuation to the cake, then have modeling chocolate like a bridge between the cake and the foil, and press it well so it just goes and sticks inside the ups and downs or the crevices of the aluminum foil, and it will not keep moving like it's a separate piece. Okay, so building the hands is done. Now let's move on to ganaching the entire body. So I have the ganache here, the same ganache that was made for layering. It's been softened up. I'm using a silicone spatula to make it easier to spread. Like I said, the cake was in the freezer, right? So it is going to be easier for me to spread it out. It's too bright. I will be ganaching the entire body with hands, legs, everywhere. Is on top of where I need fondant. I want the ganache layer to be really very smooth. Okay, so the first target for me is to cover up the cake with one layer. After which I will smooth out. So first, let me not worry about each and every part being smooth. You could do a crumb coat, like this is set well, the cake and the cake pops mixture and all that. So I'm just doing the final coat itself. Now, if yours is not as stable as this, now you don't have place in your fridge or your freezer, then you could do one thin layer of crumb coat, after which you can start to ganache. For this, obviously, we need hot water and to get the smoother surface. Also, because the cake was in the freezer, the ganache is setting quickly. So I'm just going to go around and check wherever the cake is exposed, because I am pretty much happy with the shape. If in case I have just not been happy with the shape, as I'm ganashing, you could still maybe figure out certain mistakes, or maybe the shape could have been better. Now you are allowed at this stage also to go ahead and use the cake pops and build. You feel like that place is like maybe having excess cake, or maybe you could have carved better. You still have the room to do that. So until the ganache is like complete, you are allowed to change whatever little corrections, addition or removing, all that is allowed even at this stage. So the body is done. Smoothing part, well, it will be there. Scraping off from the dents will be there, because I see here there is like quite a lot of uneven surface. So I'm just going to use a sheet, like it's a thicker OHP sheet, which I'll just use by dipping it into hot water. Here I see, and that's that part, maybe ganache. I'm just going to go continue on the foil as well. So you just need to smoothen out the foil's outer texture. You could start using your hands, just have your glove on. I just want to cover up the bigger places, and then on the intricate places, obviously, I just put my glove on and then use my fingers, or the entire, all the fingers together, or maybe one finger if I just want a very intricate part where, all the fingers wouldn't go. So having a flexible wire, I mean, it's not like really very flexible, but it holds this much of weight. Foil can be added, and then it wouldn't change too much of shape, the hand I'm saying. So the right thickness of the, for the if it is like a simple hand, you don't need to make it holding something, etc. Obviously it can be a thinner wire, but then a stable one where you want it to hold a particular shape, then a copper wire of this thickness is very important. Now again, I should allow the space for the fondant, how thick the hands should be. I'm just going to switch over to a smaller but silicone spatula again. I'm just covering up the entire foil. I will be smoothing it out, so I'm just roughly giving it a cover. Here I could see. So I'm just sealing here the continuation. So I'm going to check. You can see how the dress will move, right? So this part, when it is the dress itself, it wouldn't have a dent here as it moves, right? So that could be cake pop or the ganache. And that's why when you're working with shapes here, you just can't be working with a really soft ganache that would just set and become like very creamy. We don't want that. So at this stage, we should be able to, kind of change the shape as you're working, but then yet you want the ganache to settle down. Face, I'm just going to leave, not going to ganache the face. Hands and body, and then the leg. So entire body is sealed with the ganache. Softening, yes, I have to do. Just getting my chair to sit so I could see the underside and ganache the. So working with silicone spatula at this stage is like quite convenient. So you can just fill up any major gaps between the Rice Krispie treats, the board, and the leg that you're looking at doing. And if you want any soft edges and not too sharp, all that steps can be done here. Just checking from the underside to check if the bottom is all sealed up. Then just moving on to the shoes as well. I'm just not quite happy with how the shirt ends here, and then there is like the flow here. I just don't like. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut off this part, okay, and then do the softener. And knife. Okay, I hope you can see how this, this drag down at that part. So even so, like I said, even at this stage where you're ganashing and you feel like, maybe the shape could have been a little better. You can see the Rice Krispie is quite hardened up. I'm just going to use the smaller knife. So that's how hard it will get, which is in a good way that, the shape we know is just going to be retained. I'm just going to divide between the legs. I'm just going to turn it towards me so I could see from underneath. After cutting, I'm just going to turn it around to show you. Okay, so I've just made the gap, a little more wider. Now, what I'm going to do, wet this cloth and start using my hands so I could just go in to all these intricate places. So once I start using my hands, then all these intricate places where there is excess ganache, I could feel and check where there is this flow needed, but then there is like, like a lot of ganache added. So I'm just going to cover up the legs also roughly. Then once I move on with using my hands, then it would be easier. Now, even if there's excess, then I will just remove it. Just checking to see where I find place where it is not covered. Okay, so roughly everywhere I've just covered. And there are places where it just needs to be smoothed out, right? So I'm just going to use this wet cloth to wipe my hands. I'm going to see how much I'm able to, the heat of the water, how much I'm able to bear. So going to go and smooth it out first with fingers. If I have to scrape off, also using this is a sheet. You just dip it into the warm water. So what this will do, scrape any excess first before even using the fingers. So fingers, you could just smooth out the dents. Like a large portion of uneven surface. You can see, this just keeps scraping off. So you need to put that ganache back into the bowl, clean it up. OHP sheet, the ones earlier, they used to be good and firm. These days they aren't great. So you could use the acrylic material that I used for making stencils. They also come out really good. These dents, I will fill it up with ganache. So if the card doesn't go, we could just use the hands. So overall, I'm just going to scrape out. So then I'm just going to starting to use my fingers itself. Okay. And here I can just put pressure and then just merge. Obviously, fingers have to be warm and wet also. So now on top of this, the fondant, I mean, if you really don't want it to be thick, you want it quite thin. If you add it thick, obviously all the details, the intricate details will just go missed out, right? So you want a thin sheet of fondant. And if that is the case, then this here for this tent, I'm just adding a ganache that I just picked it up into my finger and then just covering it up. So I'll just smooth out. So what I was saying, the surface of the ganache has to be quite smooth. So once you put the fondant, you will just not have the ups and downs, the dents, all that showing out of the surface of the fondant. I feel, instead of my gloves, I'm just going to switch over to my hands so I could actually feel if the hands are, how warm it is, how much ganache I'm just picking out. So first layer, let me smooth out all that I see. Here, need to add excess that I will add here. Here in this place, I just think I need quite a bit. So the ganache that's been set well. See, wherever I know, when you use the silicone spatula, there are places which has got missed out, right? So those places, if you find extra, just remove it and smooth out. Here I see there is a dent. So there's better control if I'm using my hands without covering it. So overall, it's been softened, at least the body part, the body. Okay. While I see dents like this, I will cover it up. So any dent that you find here will be visible outside the fondant. So good amount of time should be taken to work on the ganache. Okay, so I'm just going to continue doing this. Go ahead and smooth the entire ganache surface everywhere. And then I'll just get back in another 10 minutes so I can just quickly finish this. So I'm just going to basically continue this entire thing and have a smoother ganache throughout.